Welcome to Confirmation Bias, presented by the League Ambassadors.
I'm Ambassador Kenny Ken, and Chris Paul, you can run to Houston, but you can't hide, brother. With 6 turnovers and 4 assists in game 1, we see you. And that's my confirmation bias.
I'm Ambassador Dad, and if the Las Vegas Golden Knights make the Stanley Cup final, I think the League Ambassadors might need to make a road trip. And that's my confirmation bias.
I'm Red O. And shout out to Coach Joe, because I'm sure enough enjoying the first round of the NBA playoffs. And that's my confirmation bias.
Omar, you stupid. I'm Ambassador Chef Curry, and Candace Parker is paying her ex-husband and former NBA player Sheldon Williams $400,000 in alimony, despite him making $12 million through his NBA career. If you ask me, that is gender equality, and that's my confirmation bias.
Welcome to Confirmation Bias, hosted by the League Ambassadors. This is episode 41, second season of our show.
Sure enough.
As a reminder, you can sure enough follow us everywhere on social media. Our handle is at the League AM. That is Twitter, that is Facebook, that is Instagram. Also, please check out our website, theleagueam.com. Check out our online blogspot, Diplomatic Immunity, and we have a special guest. Chief Diplomat Nick Blackmon is actually in studio with us, and he's going to rock out with us today. We've also got some boxing to talk about, Bartolo Colon, some Dez Bryant, as well as we've got a Johnson brother debate. We got a full show, but first, in our hot topics, we are going to discuss all things NBA playoffs round 1. First of all, we will start with the world champion Golden State Warriors, who are up 2-0 on the Spurs. And the question I have for you guys is simply, did the Warriors flip the switch, Kevin?
Absolutely. They're one of the teams that, of course, have been there before. They're proven. They play the right type of basketball. They move it. They play defense. If anybody can afford to wait until the playoffs come to play their best basketball, it's them. They've proven it before.
I don't know yet.
Really?
It's hard to say, simply because no. The team that they're playing's best player is LaMarcus Aldridge.
Mm-hmm.
And
that was a straight shit.
I'm just saying. Foreshadowing. So I'm just saying that with their recent success, we've seen teams get bored of the regular season. And yes, they do have the opportunity and they have the wherewithal to turn it on, but we haven't seen what they look like with Steph back. How healthy is he? I mean, they're playing the Spurs without a key component.
Well,
I mean,
obviously the switch has been flipped, but it's not as significant as it would be maybe some other team, because if you think about it, man, they played a lot of fucking basketball over the last 4 years, more than most people, and you can tell they just was not interested in the regular season.
Not at all.
Not one bit. Now they look interested.
Which is why I think it bodes the question of whether or not the switch has been flipped. Let's go to Philadelphia. We've got the Miami Heat, who last night tied up the series 113-103 behind a flashback game from Mr. Dwayne Wade, 28 points. Wade in the water. Some huge plays down the stretch. He credited Kevin Hart
Yeah, he did.
Hey,
But here's
AI tried to talk him off. You a bad man.
But here's the question, and I'll go to you, Nutso. Is the series dynamic going to change with Joel Embiid? And was this Miami's basically one swan song in the series?
Yes, because I don't think that the Heat on paper, I mean, you look at their roster, they can hang with Philly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, let's be honest. I just think the Sixers are too much. I don't think they need Embiid, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Which is a good question. They were talking about that last night. Actually,
this team.
Kenny and Chuck. Well, they didn't go to the
enough.
They didn't go to the extent of saying whether or not Joel Embiid is needed in this series. But the question that Chuck put out was, would you start Joel Embiid when he comes back?
No.
But do you
wouldn't start
agree?
him?
I just think that they have that feel right now. They have that momentum, and maybe you throw them in, and then it messes everything
It
up.
disrupts the chemistry.
Yeah.
Dev?
I say start him. I think that if for him actually wanting to come back and play after being hurt, unlike some teams' best players, I think that's something that an organization wants to. They let him get out there. He hasn't played in the playoffs yet. He's thirsty. He's hungry. He's ready for it. And
Shit
I think,
on NBA Player Tuesday, huh?
shit on San Antonio.
Jesus.
This is true.
Yeah. I mean, you got to let the young buck get out there. I think yesterday was a big game for them because they had the 27-point win, and then they faced adversity.
They're feeling themselves.
And then they started getting spanked, but then they came back. And how
Right.
did they come back? Because Ben Simmons started going to the fucking rack.
Yeah.
While the other team was shooting threes for some reason to let them back in the game, and they didn't have anybody else that could get their shot.
I don't think you could stop him from starting. For one thing, he mad enough that he not playing.
I was gonna say Kevin. He's saying stop babying me.
He mad.
Stop babying him. He wants to play, and I think when he's ready, he should. Now, from an X and O standpoint, I think the concern would be that maybe he slows their pace down from running up and down the floor. He could clog the lane and prevent Mr. Ben Simmons, who lives at the paint and receives mail there, from going to the hole. We've seen that with LeBron, who plays similar to him. But, at the end of the day, he's their go-to option when they need a bucket. Like Devin said, instead of settling for threes, long jumpers, put that boy in the paint, give him the rock, and go down half court and play defense.
But what about the argument that bringing in Embiid brings Hassan Whiteside back into this series, which I think has been an issue for Miami, the fact that one of their best players, in fact, somebody that they're paying over $100 million, is not playing in this series because Philadelphia effectively has gone small and they're playing a faster pace.
To me, it's the equivalent. I'm not saying he's him, but it's like saying Shaq was hurt and he can't come in and start. Like, it's the fuck you talking about? No, he's starting.
I would take Embiid over the Whiteside production any day.
Yeah.
So I'd be willing to take.
Because first of all, he getting in foul trouble anyway, Whiteside. So Embiid should put him in foul trouble faster.
Right.
Let's go to Houston, where on Sunday the Houston Rockets prevailed over a very game Minnesota Timberwolves team, 104-101. A couple of interesting themes here in this game. Number one, as I stated in my confirmation bias, Chris Paul.
Choke Paul.
And then with Minnesota, Karl Anthony Towns, who is a great young player. Defensively, Houston, their strategy was to basically switch everything. So there were a ton of instances where Karl Anthony Towns had a mismatch, a decided mismatch, only had 8 shot attempts, only had 9 points.
Did you say several?
Several.
Way more than that.
So the question that I put to you guys is, did they blow their shot?
Yes, hell yes. That was the only shot Minnesota's going to get. When you have Karl Anthony Towns, like you mentioned, they failed to get him the ball in the paint. He had, 7 touches in the paint? He was their 7th leading scorer on a team where you said he's not one of, if not their best player.
Yeah.
And they only lost by 3. Now, you would think that's a good sign for them, but as terrible as a defensive coach as Mike D'Antoni is, he is not going to give Minnesota that chance again to have Chris Paul and James Harden sticking Towns in the paint again. That's not going to happen.
I don't know about that. I think it's more so that they won't make the adjustment and punish them for doing so.
It wasn't like tips, though.
Well, it's a philosophy thing. It has to be, right? Like, he's not teaching his players to do that. the point guard is not looking for, and the big man damn sure wasn't asking for it.
Tibbs, yeah, I mean, in Tibbs, that's what Tibbs said after the game. Tibbs said that Carl's got to be more aggressive in wanting to go and get the ball. He doesn't necessarily have a facilitating point guard in Jeff Teague.
What you mean necessary?
I'm trying to be kind here. Devin's shitting on everybody. But
I'm just keeping it a buck.
But how about this? How about Jimmy Butler's a motherfucking hot dog? How about that? I mean, in that fourth quarter, because what I saw in that game is I saw a team that struggled to get buckets in the half court when they needed it. And having a big man, to what you guys were saying about Joel Embiid, when you have someone like Karl Anthony Towns, that's where your bread is buttered, especially in postseason basketball. Jimmy Butler was putting it up every time. It was Jimmy Butler, then it was Andrew Wiggins. And I mean, and you look at a guy like Andrew Wiggins, whose value, I think, is not being fully maximized because for all the things that we give Jimmy Butler credit for, I don't know. He's a ball stopper. In my opinion, I see him as a ball stopper. Nick?
I mean, if you look at other than Karl Anthony Towns, who can score for Minnesota?
I think Andrew Wiggins can score.
Andrew Wiggins, but like you said, he was
Jimmy
limited.
Butler.
Jimmy Butler, but I mean, if you take away Karl Anthony Towns, they really can't really hurt you.
They would
It's like their offense is stagnant.
Well,
exactly.
I've always said Jimmy Butler is the most star in the league.
That's
star.
star.
That's one of the reasons why
He could put up
Chicago
20 a night, yeah.
was easy to
That's
give him
just
up.
as bad as Sure Enough.
Hey, you notice what I just said?
He's a star, but he ain't.
Yeah, I
He's
don't.
a star player who does not
They
help
missed
your
their shot.
team,
That was their shot.
That was their shot.
and they're not getting another one.
No, because Houston's not going to shoot that poorly.
No.
Tonight, we have the Boston Celtics that have gone up 2-0 on the Milwaukee Bucks. And yeah, I did say last show that was my upset pick, was Milwaukee over Boston. And I mean, and it is a decided coaching advantage. I get it. Brad Stevens is, I mean, he is well on his way to being one of the best coaches in professional sports, period. He's really, he is that good. He is getting maximum production. But really, Milwaukee, what is missing here,
They're not
Kev?
ready.
They don't have another consistent option outside of Giannis. Jabari Parker, like, bruh. At some point, you have to emerge as that second option they can consistently go to when they need a bucket. But then I remember where he went to college, and we know his type don't translate into the NBA.
But
I mean, they got Brogdon, who I think is good, but they need more consistent guard play. When you got Eric Bledsoe turning the ball over 5-6 times, believe it or not, he is a veteran in this league. You just can't play like that in the playoffs.
they're supposed to have more consistent players. So Bledsoe was supposed to be an upgrade.
Chris Middleton.
Is supposed to be that two piece that he's supposed to have to the Greek Freak. Like, so it's not like they all of a sudden they don't have players. They're not playing.
The problem is bigger than that, though. They don't have an identity. Like, seriously, what are they? I mean, if you look at their roster, aside from Jason Terry, who's Omar's age.
Happy birthday, Omar.
Yeah, happy birthday, Rido.
Jackie Robinson year.
Their second oldest player is Brandon Jennings.
And he's not even playing in the
28.
series, and he's 28.
Right?
Yeah,
So you have all these young dudes, and all of them, are long,
Yep.
and you don't have an identity. You're supposed to be a defensive team. You're terrible at defense. You don't have any
Who's
sort
the
of
best
flow.
shooter on the team?
Chris
Jason
Middleton
Terry.
or Malcolm
Yeah,
Brogdon.
Jason Terry. You got three different answers. And that's the problem.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if you don't have shooters, then don't play a shooting type of game. Change it up. Do something.
Greg Monroe, you're supposed to be a post player, right? A 2010 guy, maybe? No?
Really?
Uh-oh. Who gonna get him?
I watched this game tonight.
Did you?
He ain't it. Greg Monroe ain't it.
He doubling down.
Yeah.
Somebody help him. Devin, save your brother.
I'm speechless.
Devin, save your brother.
What team does he play for?
Oh, I did that. Wait.
Oh shit.
Hey, the point is, he's on that team, okay?
Hey, Redo.
If they had a second option, I'd know who he was. That's my point.
And you tripled down on that shit too.
We moving on to Cleveland.
Moving on to Cleveland. Oh shit!
With your righteous indignation.
We moving on to Cleveland.
Oh shit!
Oh, we gonna rapid fire this one. Cleveland Cleveland got blown out. Cleveland got blown out. They got blown out. Are we hitting the panic button? Yes or no? Let's go round table. Nick, panic button in Cleveland?
No, because it's Cleveland. You can't panic yet. It's only game 1.
Omar.
Yes.
Devin.
Tomorrow.
Kevin.
Not yet, but we'll see.
We don't know if we trust anything that you say for the rest of the show.
That's funny. Man. So at this point in the show, we'd like to, talk with and have a discussion with our chief diplomat, Mr. Nutso, Nick Blackmon here. Before we get into the questions, I think it's important to have a quick story time about how we actually met, which I think is fucking hilarious. So I'm in a Ralph's. I walk in. I hear somebody arguing with a teller about the Ravens playing the Green Bay Packers.
Ralph's where?
Ralph's.
No, where?
Oh, here and it was in Culver City. It was in Culver City. And then I just keep listening. I keep hearing like, this motherfucker really rooting for the Ravens. And I was like, what you know about the Ravens? He's like, what you know about the Ravens? I'm like, I'm from Baltimore. He's like, I'm from Baltimore too. What's up? I'm like, oh, okay. All right, yeah, we have a season is on the rocks, whatever. Boom. All right, man, stay up. Boom. Handshake. I go finish shopping. I get to the last aisle in Rouse. I'm on the far side. And then I see at the top side, this dude walking, looking around for somebody, and then he look at me and point. And he start walking to me, and it's Nick again. And I'm like, oh, shit. This motherfucker probably want to borrow some money or something. So he walks to me, he was like, you can see on his face, like he was trying to figure out how to approach it, and he was like, you know what? Now I don't know weirdo shit, but like I just moved out here. I don't know any Ravens fans. Can we exchange numbers and maybe like we could watch games together, but like not on no shit like that. He was, I can't really say exactly what he said.
Yeah.
But that's how we met. We've been cool ever since, and this is Baltimore Nick.
Can I spend some time with you?
Yeah, baby. But so I wanted to get that out the way. But we wanted to know because as we mentioned before in the show, Nick is our chief diplomat who runs our blogspot, and he has his blogs that he posts on there as well. But what is your sports love story? Like what made you fall in love with sports?
I already know what to say already. New Orleans Super Bowl. Like you mean like
what made you fall in love? No,
Or
not best
you mean
experience. What got you into sports so heavy? Because you are a sports fanatic. If there was a definition, it's you.
Being around it, man. I grew up 12, 13 years old, and we didn't have a team then. Being actually from the outskirts of Baltimore, the Annapolis area, it was either, I don't call them that name. I call them the foreskins, but we will digress from there.
Indigenous people.
Yes.
Keep going.
The foreskins, or, you didn't have anything. And I was born in, I'm a 70s baby. Let's not really, talk about that. But I grew up with, basically, I didn't have a team, right? And so, I was like, the Packers fan early growing up. I liked Brett Favre. I liked a lot of their players and stuff, but I didn't have that loyalty. And then 96, the Ravens came to town, and it was a wrap for me. I fell in love, and it was done. But pretty much just to grow up and just, baseball, basketball. I remember the NBA on NBC was the shit when you grew up, man. Like Sunday morning, that's all you wanted to watch. It was the best matchups too. Like the Celtics,
best
Lakers,
theme song too, John Tesh.
It was the best, man. And so it just I was just around it growing up, man.
Yeah, that's what's up. I mean, when you come over my house, you have your own props for setting up to watch games. So
they know I'm.
Wait, hold on. First time I met him was at the parlor, right?
No, it had to be at the Chargers. I think the first time I met you
San
was
Diego
at the Chargers game.
San Diego, okay.
And that's a whole.
We went to the
story.
Chargers game. That's a whole different.
Yeah, we can't. We don't have enough time for that.
I hate that stadium. I went 0-2 there. That place is a house of horrors for me.
Oh, we'll never have to go there again.
Never again.
Why is diplomatic immunity so important?
Oh, man. You know what, man? I just think that people need to express themselves. I think that, I'll put it like this. I remember a couple years back, 2014, when the Orioles went to the ALCS, and I had documented every single game, and as I do now. and you go back and
know.
look at it, and you're like, wow, like, you know, if we would have went all the way and to win the World Series, you would have looked at it and go, wow, he had every game documented, like from the first, you know, to the last. And I don't know, I just think that that's very important for people to be able to, you know, put things down. It's history. As soon as you write it, it's done, and you can go back and look at it and go, I remember that game, or I remember this, I remember that. I just think that it's very good for people to express, you know, their love for sports. And honestly, I don't think enough people write. I don't think enough people really express it, you know, and put it down. I think that they just, you know, see it, and then it's just all of a sudden it's gone, and it's just a game. But if you document it and write about how you feel, then you have it, and, you know.
It's there.
It's
Yeah,
there
I mean,
forever.
so that makes me want to ask this question now. So how do you pull off those write-ups? Because there's 161 baseball games.
If you have not seen it, just go to our website on Diplomatic Community, and you will see a write-up of a random baseball game, and it's this guy right here. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is. So, I mean, speak to that, because that's a lot of work that goes into that.
Yeah, it is. And you know what? It's like I made the commitment, and once I committed myself, I was like, oh shit, I'm in too deep now. I'm just all in. So I gotta, you know, I committed myself every year. Like, all right, you know, it's gonna be opening day. I gotta get back to that writing. So it's and then, you know, I do the same thing for, like, you know, the Ravens and the O's pretty much. I don't really, the Terps I don't cover.
So do you watch all these games?
So what's your cable bill look like?
I got the MLB app, so I'm able to see every game through my phone.
I thought he was about to say, with my neighbor's cable bill.
So I'm able to watch every O's game through my phone, or,
Nice.
you know. So
Kevin
I
used to
already know
have
what time it is.
Kevin used to have a joke when your writers would come. He's like, "Damn, Nick's seeing shit in Baltimore and L.A. before I do, and I'm here."
How many years have you been doing that?
Oh, about 9-10 years.
Wow.
Now
I
you
just
have
do
a
it,
place
man.
to.
I just do it, you know. And this is, yeah, exactly.
How do you get into it? Like you said that you wanted to kind of document that stuff, but like, what made you think, all right, let me just start writing this stuff down?
Honestly, I really don't know. I was when I grew up and I was younger, I was grabbing the sports page, looking at the box scores, looking at NBA box scores, who scored what, did this and that, looking at all the scores, looking at how they formatted it, looking at baseball scores, looking at everything, and it just intrigued me so much, because I'm like, you know what? Like, I should do this. This is what I would like to do. I would like to every day to cover sports, look at who went, you know, this and that from field goal range, who went 0 for 3 from field goal range, who went from the free throw line, who did this, you know, in baseball, this and that. And it caught my eye. So I started doing it as a hobby and just writing and just putting it down. And honestly, as a hobby, I didn't expect nothing to come out of it. And then, you know, I was more or less into like music and, you know, and everything like that. And one day I showed it to somebody and they were like, dude, I don't know if you think you're supposed to do music or whatever, bro, but like your calling here, you're missing your calling. Your calling is here with writing. I'm telling you right now. And he looked at it and he really like influenced me. I was like, damn, you know what? I mean, shit, he's right. So I looked at everything and then I just started doing it every day now. And just, you know, and I only do it like a certain amount of numbers, like in like the text mode first. So
Characters.
So yeah. And then that way the format is like the short and sweet. You know what I mean? You can get the point across, but it's not
Yeah, sort of like me.
oversaturation.
Short and sweet. So, since you've been kind of curating that for us, what do you think so far is the best Diplomatic Community submission? Whether it's one you wrote or...
You know what? We've only been going about what I'd say a year and a half, 2 years. I'd probably say the best one. It was either from, I want to say the Big Perm one that he wrote something about a boxing, the boxing one that was good. I remember because I posted it. And then there was another one that I did about the draft where I was covering the draft. And I really went into detail. I had it all formatted. I had the pictures and I had all that. And I would probably say that was probably the best one that has been submitted. And I plan on doing that again on, you know, the same thing for the draft this year.
Hopefully we all have something to celebrate. But because we need some good drafts here in this room.
Yes,
Oh, man.
all of us.
Well,
All of us.
we're super glad that you came in, Nick.
I appreciate it, man.
Please,
Yeah.
everyone, check out Diplomatic Community. Please make submissions and posts. We've created this blogspot for you as an outlet. We will shout you out on social media. We will get to posting some submissions. But it's a huge component for the league ambassadors because at the end of the day, we are all simply fans of sports. So thank you again, Nick, for the work that you do with us, and it's great
Please
that you're here.
submit writings, man.
Yeah,
Please.
absolutely.
All right.
About anything.
Now it's time for Black vs. Blue. First up, we got newsworthy and nothing to see here. Somebody tell me what the hell is Bartolo Colon drinking, smoking? Because he's 44 years old, and he was just 6 outs from a perfect game.
Mm-hmm.
I read somewhere that there are 9 managers that have actually faced him in his career, and they're actually managers now.
It's insane.
Bro.
It's newsworthy.
Yeah.
How many teams does he play for?
Everyone. Everyone.
What season is this?
For him, I don't know.
It's 20 plus
It's
easily.
got to be 20
Season
plus.
21, yeah.
21.
11 teams.
25
in 21 years.
seasons, man.
First of all,
How many is it, Kevin?
11 teams in 21 years.
That's ridiculous.
do we really know that he's only 44? 'Cause do we know that?
He's
Is that
probably
documented?
52.
That motherfucker is 54.
I think what was more impressive, though, was the team he did it against.
The Astros.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah. Hell yeah.
Did you see AJ Hinch's face as Bartolo was pitching? He was dumbfounded. He was trying to figure out what is this guy on.
He's on that pink flower from.
It's gonna be a
From
30 for
Wakanda.
30 in 5 years.
Yeah.
It's
for
gonna be
sure.
a what?
A 30 for 30 in 5 years.
It needs to be one now. Right. Time for Hope or Hype. Mr. Problem, Adrian Broner. Fresh with a new trainer, up against a good fighter in Jesse Vargas. Is it hope that that new trainer is going to help him get to where his talent says he should be? Or is it all hype and he's washed up?
It's hype for me, bro. He didn't have several opportunities to grow up, but I do kind of want to see him win just for the simple fact that Tekashi 69 beef. That shit's pretty entertaining.
Stop with that.
I want it to be hope because I think he's got some talent, but I suspect that it's hype. I think, he's been fighting the same way for so long now.
Gotta let his hands go.
And it worked for him. It did work for him when he was 130 pounds. But as he's moved up in weight, that fighting style has not worked for him. And actually, this is a dangerous fight against a very game Jesse Vargas. So as much as I want it to be hope, I feel like it's a situation where it is hype.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I feel like it's hype. It's, I'm certain fighters. I think it's just a point where they just need to go away, and it's just go away, son.
He had his window. It didn't happen.
He had multiple windows.
Yeah.
Great sunlight. It's just time for him to close those windows and go away. Last but not least, hit or flop. All right, the Dallas Cowboys part ways with and cut the mercurial wide receiver, Dez Bryant. Is that a hit or flop for Dallas?
I think it's a hit for Dallas. I think it's a hit for Dallas because I think this is about Dak Prescott. I think that what you're seeing across the league, and we've touched on this before, if you don't have a number one ace receiver, you just want to have 3 or 4 different receivers and literally scheme up against teams. And you don't want to have to worry about a guy who's always going to be bitching and moaning about getting the ball, especially when that guy is not getting the sort of separation and he's losing the edge that Dez is. Having said that, I think that you guys might feel like it's a hit for you.
It's a hit for everyone.
Baltimore.
Trying to look at this unbiased, I think it's similar to what happened with Cam Newton and Steve Smith. In order for Steve to grow in Carolina's mind, Steve, distraction, had to get out the locker room. I just hope Dez lands in the same place that Steve Smith did, and then boys get back to the playoffs.
Where is that? Where did Steve Smith land?
Let him know, Kev.
In Baltimore, Omar.
Okay.
Right, half a mile that way, right there. That's
Hey, look. If we get Crabtree and Dez, our receivers got attitude. We got swag. Like, we going to be out there trying to be, Man, we're gonna be talking our shit.
We're not getting our chain snatched. I
No,
know.
we're definitely not getting our chain snatched. Tell them, Kev. No, we're not. We're not.
Y'all gonna be talking face to face to
We gonna
those
be
cornerbacks.
we
You
got
ain't
a
getting
lot
no
to say.
separation.
I say yes to Dez.
All right, is you with it or nah? We're going to have the Johnson brothers to go against each other, Devin and Kevin. The topic is one Mr. Kawhi Leonard and the San Antonio Spurs. This has been a season-long storyline where basically Kawhi is staging a boycott, feels like. He had a quad injury, tendinopathy in his quadriceps, same injury as Tony Parker. Tony Parker's come back and is actually playing. Kawhi has said that he's not ready. He doesn't have explosiveness. He came back for 9 games. He's been training in New York, rehabilitating in New York. He was cleared by the Spurs. Interesting enough, and this hones in on the question, he is eligible for a Supermax extension this summer, $200 million plus. The question for the debate is, what should the Spurs do? Should they offer him the Supermax extension? Or, because of the acrimonious nature of the relationship, should they look to trade him and move away from him? We will call it in the air. Devin, I have the coin. Call it.
Heads.
It is heads, sir. Which side of the argument would you like?
Or nah.
Or nah. So he is saying that the Spurs
Or saying nah.
are saying nah, and they're going to trade him. Kevin, do you want to go first or second?
Let that bitch go first.
Damn. Okay.
I love you, Dev. I'm sorry. I love
All
you.
right.
It's too late
Trying
now.
to win here.
motherfucker.
Trying to win here.
You ready?
Yeah. All right. So, in a star-driven league, where you can only win with stars, and you can only get other stars if you have stars, it's important to stay relevant. Most NBA teams will re-sign this monster, Kawhi Leonard, to the Supermax, but we're talking about the Spurs. They are not your average franchise. They have zigged while other teams have zagged in their history multiple occasions. The Spurs organization can simply not bang with a weirdo like Kawhi Leonard. An ambassador once told me that you cannot trust a motherfucker from Riverside. They are weird. That was the exact quote. Not to mention that he still has straightbacks. The mere fact that the always under control Uncle Popovich, who will be manning the grill at the cookout, basically threw his hands up speaks volumes to me. When asked after Game 1, any chance Kawhi rejoins the team after during the series, he responded, "You'll have to ask Kawhi and his group that question." That's not how the Spurs roll, especially since there are inside rumblings that he doesn't even want to be there in the first place. He's not showing up to support the teammates at the games. Other teammates have been throwing jabs at him who had similar injuries, who are even older than him, and they came back fine. Furthermore, it would be to their advantage to do that, to let him go and trade him, because they're going to get a lot of suitors. He's only going to be 27 years old next year, fellas. So I think that there are already several teams on record saying they're going to reach out to them. And I think y'all may not want to hear this, but especially a team like the Lakers, if they get Kawhi Leonard, they could definitely secure that big fish that they really want. And who the fuck cares about PG-13 if you get Kawhi? The Spurs would have to get some assets back to make that make sense. So they would give up some of the young talent, Ingram, Hart, Kuzma, and a pick. So
Bell ring.
you got that young core. Let that weirdo walk.
All right. Devin went long. Kev?
Hey.
All right, now, Nick, look at me. I'm the captain now, all right? The Spurs need to keep Kawhi Leonard for several reasons. First off, this is more of a basketball issue than it is a personal one. And I believe that it can be rectified. Kawhi didn't disrespect the team, his teammates, the franchise, or vice versa. And I think because the media doesn't necessarily have an answer for what's going on, they've made this into a story that everyone's overreacting to. Now, I think it can be solved with simple communication, and it's not the first time that a superstar was disgruntled, wanted to leave, and stay with the team. I'm sure you all remember when Kobe Bryant famously said he wanted to be traded from the Lakers, and what happened? He sat down with management, they worked out their issues, he stayed, and I believe they won 2 championships after that. Remember just last year when LaMarcus Aldridge wanted to be traded, him and Pop had their differences. What did they do? They sat down, they worked through their differences, and now for, I guess this summer at least, he's their big man in the paint. He stayed. So if there's any team that can work through this type of adversity, it's San Antonio. And speaking of differences, there is a difference between playing injured and playing hurt. And based on what Kenyon said, Kawhi is hurt. Well, I'm sorry, Kawhi is injured. And I think it would be foolish of him to play while injured before contract year. We've seen guys coming back too early and end up hurting them in the long run, like Grant Hill. He played when he wasn't 100% on an ankle injury, and a Hall of Fame career got limited because of that. Just last year, Isaiah Thomas he risked his physical and his emotional well-being to get the Celtics through the playoffs. What happened? He got injured further. They ended up trading him, and he never got that max deal. And I think people who question Kawhi's toughness must have forgotten that this dude's a gamer. Like, when he's healthy, he goes toe-to-toe with LeBron, won the finals, won finals MVP. He wants to compete. I don't think that him not being there on the sideline is necessarily an issue, especially if you're a competitive guy. If you can't help your team, knowing the story's going on, being there is even more of a distraction. So I think
all right,
figure this out, and he stayed.
The brothers.
And if Omar can say mercurial, then Greg Monroe can play for the Dez.
You know they're definitely brothers because they both went long. Chief Diplomat Nick Blackmon, who confirmed your bias?
Oh, man, wow. That was a good argument for both. Honestly. I'm going to have to lean with Dev on this one because I don't think he'll be there no more.
Well, there it is. Older brother wins. Kevin.
Kev.
Back to the drawing board.
Sorry, man. It's all right.
I don't think anybody thinks he's going to be there anymore.
I don't think so either.
But if you're San Antonio,
you made your argument,
I kind of
a good
agree.
case,
But if you're San Antonio, how do you continue to compete?
I had to go with it because I think it's just obvious.
Hey, I ain't mad. He's sitting right there. You ain't got a choice. I'm 3,000 miles away. It's cool. But if you're San Antonio, how do you compete with teams like Golden State, Houston, Portland, OKC, who have their max guys for the next 5 to 7 years?
It doesn't matter because he's only got one more year. All he has to say is, I'm not signing back here and I'm out. So either trade me to one of these teams or lose me.
How about how about the fact that I feel like he's lost the locker room with the stories that have come out all season. I think that's really the big, because you're right, Kevin. I think you made a great point. In fact, LaMarcus Aldridge was in the same position, but man, he's lost that locker room in a real way. So
the Tony Parker
was throwing jabs at him. I mean, come on, man.
All right. Well, this has been a fun show. Let's get out of here. Again, follow us everywhere on social media. Our handle is @TheLeagueAM. That is Twitter. That is Facebook. That is Instagram. Please visit our YouTube channel, League Ambassadors. Also, once again, diplomatic immunity.
Please,
folks,
man.
if you are into sports and you got something to say, submit it to our website.
Submit it to me. I will put it up there.
Nutso, thank you for coming in.
Sure enough.
We will see you later this week.
Yep.
Shout out to Junior Blue. We praying for you, brother.
Yes, sir.
What up, Les?
Yep.